tonight. CNN, January 30th.
Is growing.
And as that crisis grows, so does the effort by the president to try to ramp up the sales job for that economic stimulus plan, which did not draw any Republican votes in the House. He's obviously hoping to bring more on board when it starts being put together into more detail in the Senate next week. In fact, we're learning that over the weekend, the president here at the White House will be hosting Democratic and Republican members of the House and Senate for a little Super Bowl party to try to start that lobbying effort, Lou.
Well, it would take some minds away from some awfully negative talk emanating from the White House on this economy. Ed, if you will just stand by for a moment. First, I want to, if I may, support the White House and its efforts to help our middle class. In fact, what the president calls bold and swift action will be even swifter if his folks on that task force would like to read a New York Times bestseller that a particularly brilliant author wrote some 3 years ago. It's called, interestingly, War on the Middle Class. I'm sure all members of the task force led by Vice President Biden will find a number of answers to a number of problems, and it won't cost them a dime. We're going to be sending you all a copy absolutely free. Well, joining us now, another member of the best political team on television, our national political correspondent, Jessica Yellin. Jessica, the president is saying some things that make sense, blasting Wall Street for billions of dollars in bonuses, while shareholders are losing tens of billions of dollars. There was a pretty strong backlash, however, to those comments today.
Very strong, especially from Rudy Giuliani, a guy who knows Wall Street and the backlash and the bonus situation very well. Wall Streeters saying, look, Mr. President, you just don't understand the situation. He argues that bonuses are drivers of the economy. You take them away, you lose support for any number of services. You lose support for local community tax base, and it also is demonizing Wall Street, he argues. They're just looking for a scapegoat. He says this is pure politics.
It does have a reverse effect on the economy if you somehow take that bonus out of the economy. It really will create unemployment. It means less spending in restaurants, less spending in department stores. So everything has an impact.
Now, you do have to point out and remember that Wall Street executives get base pay that is 3 to 4 times what most Americans get, even without the bonus.
Well, there is no question as well that Rudy Giuliani may have forgotten there's supposed to be a reason. The bonus is what you get for doing a great job and succeeding for your shareholders. There's this idea, apparently, on the part of some, including Rudy Giuliani, that bonus money should flow even when you're not performing. In fact, you're costing your shareholders tens upon tens of billions of dollars. And one could argue, Ed Henry, if I may say, one could argue that these Wall Street executives, the management of these firms, which, by the way, are no longer truly Wall Street firms, that they cost the American people trillions of dollars with their greed, their excess, and their outright arrogance.
Well, absolutely, and that was the point the president was trying to make yesterday, which is the fact that a lot of these same people on Wall Street who were collecting the bonuses, they were laying people off in their companies. They were coming to Washington hat in hand, demanding government bailouts that may have been turned around, taxpayer money to then be used to shell out these bonuses. But let's face it, people in Washington also have to be held to account. Back in September, when the original TARP legislation was passed, we heard the same sort of outrage. We can't have these CEO bonuses. We got to do something about it. There's going to be tough language in that TARP legislation, and they didn't have it. There were loopholes.
Let me ask both you and Jessica something, because we saw Congress really go after the CEOs of those big three car makers because they came to town in private jets, big jets. We saw Citigroup, the Secretary of Treasury got on the phone and talked pretty big to Citigroup, said you got to put away that $50 million jet. Meanwhile, what is a Senate Majority Leader flying in? What is the House Speaker flying in? And what's it costing the taxpayers for those big jets? Because frankly, they're down about $12 trillion in national debt, looking at over $2 trillion in a deficit. I mean, they're losing a lot of money for the taxpayers. Why are they in big old jets? Ed, you want to take the first run at that?
Sure. I mean, obviously, the president takes Air Force One. I think people would realize for security reasons.
Yep. That's why I didn't bring that up, Ed.
And they didn't bring. You didn't mention him. I noticed. Speaker Nancy Pelosi, last time I checked, was using an Air Force jet.
There you
I
go.
haven't seen her fly around lately, and so that question undoubtedly will be asked and needs to be asked, Lou.
Jessica?
And there's no doubt, Lou, that they're happier to regulate other people than to regulate themselves. Washington is expert at that.
Yeah, it's just curious about where this example is going to start, isn't it? Thank you very much, Jessica. Jessica Yellen, Ed Henry. Thank you both.